Hey everyone, it's Blake, and welcome in to episode number 14 of our WWE 2021 save in TEW 2020. Hopefully, you continue to enjoy the series here thus far. If you're just watching this video and have not seen any of the videos prior in the series, would highly suggest going back, checking those out, because you probably missed a lot of stuff. We're just coming off of our big King of the Ring pay-per-view, and this is where the fallout begins on Raw. And before this episode, again, if you didn't catch the one we did a little wrap-up video for June of 2021. Of course, now we're starting July, and we went back, looked at some of the most noteworthy things from June. As mentioned, I will start to do those a little bit more in depth, go into more of kind of what I look at when it comes to the booking, the creative stuff, all of that. And I'm also thinking about doing some other things, which I'll mention a little bit later on in the video. But we do jump into Raw, which does start now for Raw, the road to SummerSlam, because as we know, for Raw, it is a situation where they do not have the brand specific pay-per-view in July. That belongs to SmackDown, which will hold Great American Bash here at the end of July. So for Raw, it all now begins on the road to SummerSlam. So we've got quite a few Raws before we get there. So we've got a little bit of time to build up some things for SummerSlam. We already kind of know where we want to head in, and I'm really excited. Especially, I'm excited on both sides for SummerSlam, but I've really got some fun things, I think, in the works for SummerSlam on the Raw side. So we'll see how everything unfolds with that. But we do start with the pre-show. It is a tag team match. Ricochet and Akira Tozawa taking on Shelton Benjamin and Drew Gulak. Ricochet gets the pin with the 630 splash there, and Ricochet continuing to benefit from the hot new move. We've seen that as a note, really on all of his matches he's had thus far. He didn't come out successful in his King of the Ring match against Seth Rollins, but he is going to try to build up some more momentum, and we'll be actually talking about Ricochet a little bit later on in our actual Raw episode when it comes to what he's going to have in store for next week. So let's get to 49. Nothing really of note there, just a pre-show match to let these four get some work in. Also the same here for Natalya and Carmela. Now, as you will note, there's a lot going on here. We're going to get to it, but this is actually the first time we've had Carmela at all used in our series to this point. And it is an interesting situation because we're not really even looking at this. Like, I know it gets a 51. Natalya is still one half of the tag team champions on the women's side with Tamina. Carmela gets the win, but we've got a lot happening here with Carmela because true unprofessionalism, clearly unhappy Carmela, phoning in her performance, clearly not trying at all. And here's the reason behind that. Carmela has still, angry to this point. We tried to give her bonuses. We tried everything. But she is just completely angry over the fact that the Iconics were released. Now, of course, I had nothing to do with that. That happened before my series began here. But she is so angry that the Iconics were released that she is still not sort of backing down from that. Like, we have given her a huge bonus at times. We'll probably try to do that a little bit more to see if anything changes. But this is not good because Carmella's in a state right now to where it's bad. And we do have to change. We had her as one of the ones that needed to change her gimmick. We're changing it from untouchable, which was adequate, to obnoxious as her new gimmick, which I guess we could have picked some other gimmicks at this point if she's going to be unprofessional. But we'll change her gimmick here. It also gets adequate. So, not really much of anything. But this is something to note because we will continue to try to handle this. But I think it's pretty clear right now that you see all the things that Carmella was penalized for here in the road agent notes and the dirt sheet. It's not ideal. So we've got to figure that out because, again, if you're thinking, well, why has Carmella not been on here yet? Well, now it's almost by default she has to be on here because we've all sort of seen the destruction of our women's division on the Raw side, which we're going to get to more of it here in a minute. We've got to have more people on the women's side on Raw, and that's why we tried to get Carmella a win here. But if she's unhappy, like, that adds in another element to our women's division, which is just a complete mess on Raw now. But I think we've got a couple fixes in store in the future. But for now, it's still the Raw women's division is a mess. But nonetheless, we're going to open up the official start of Raw with a huge segment here. So we're going to jump right into the start of the main show. And we get an 82 here for this one. I'm a little disappointed because I was hoping to get this one somewhere around that 90 range, but clearly Randy Orton did not do well without a script. I think that's one of those random things because before we've done stuff with Randy Orton, he's been fine without a script. So unfortunately, just one of those situations where this time it didn't work. So here's the setup. And by the way, something I've decided to do, which I don't know why I haven't done this before because I used to do this in some of my other games. I will probably start using the angle writer in TEW to be able to actually write out some of the stuff here to kind of give you a little more detail rather than just me talking about it, verbally. I'm going to probably try to write it out a bit so you get a little more description on things that are going on in the angle writer. So I'm going to use that more. I know others do that on YouTube. They do their channels and such in their videos. And I've done it in other games before just for the fun of it, but for some reason I think I've just been churning along here and just haven't thought to do it. So I'm going to start using that more, I think, in future videos to do that because I think it would especially work for a segment like this, which this is a pretty huge segment here, and it does get an 82, and I'm still fine with that. But basically here's the deal. We know last week on Raw, before King of the Ring, Randy Orton in the main event against Rey Mysterio, Randy Orton wins the match. After the match, he just brutalizes Mysterio. Dominic came running back to help him, all of this stuff, and Steve Austin basically said he wants answers from Randy Orton. He comes out to try to get those answers, and that leads to Randy Orton coming out as well. And then, before things get going pretty much at all, Orton says, he has no answers. And then we see a video of Dominic Mysterio completely laid out in the back. So he's down. You've got officials running in to see what's going on with Dominic. And Austin seemingly gets the hint here and is trying to pretty much see what Randy Orton is trying to tell him, because if you put two and two together, it would make sense, right? That Randy Orton, the one that points for them to look at the screen and to show the video, and Dominic's laid out. So that seems to go together. And then before Randy Orton walks off, which Austin is just incensed at this point, Randy Orton says the famous words here, the next time Stone Cold Steve Austin sees him, everything will change. So the mysterious Randy Orton continues to do his finest when it comes to adding the intrigue and suspense. What does that mean? Perhaps we'll find out soon enough. But that is what Randy Orton does. He slithers away like the apex predator, the snake that he is. Randy Orton seemingly, if you put it together, Dominic Mysterio is now out. He destroyed Rey Mysterio last week. Randy Orton has become, pretty much unchained here, and we'll see what this goes into. But Steve Austin not happy. Randy Orton hits the road, and perhaps the next time Austin sees him, everything could indeed change. So a good segment here to start the show. Really happy with that one. Would have liked it to be a little bit better, but that's okay. Then we go to our first match of the show. Cesaro gets the win over Angel Garza. 12:07, 58 here. That's fine. Nothing really of note. This is just sort of a match to lead to what is going to be part of a bigger story going on. And we'll just go straight to that because this is just one of those, Cesaro came up short in his match at King of the Ring in the semifinals. And the reason why was because Cesaro was attacked after his match in the quarterfinals with Mustafa Ali. And then Cesaro comes up short in the semifinals against AJ Styles. And so basically we get another angle here, and this actually does better than the one with Randy Orton. A little surprising to me, but Cesaro is demanding a trade from Steve Austin, our general manager. He wants to be traded to SmackDown so he can get revenge on Mustafa Ali. So we're trying to hold the brand split here. We're not trying to pull the WWE, get to appear 5 times a year or something. Like it's just on a different brand. Like that's just, we're making this as strict as we can, aside from the dual branded pay-per-views. So Cesaro demands a trade. Austin will not give him the trade. Basically, we have the start of the storyline here with Cesaro wanting revenge on Mustafa Ali for costing him a shot at the King of the Ring, for making it to the finals and then perhaps winning. So that, I think, is this is sort of the starting point for something that we have in the works. So really pleased with this. An 83, that's fantastic. Again, that did better than the one we had with Orton. So good job here from Cesaro, all parties involved. And this starts the storyline with Cesaro demanding a trade, but Austin will not give him a trade. He cannot afford to lose Cesaro on Raw. And that leads to another match, as we have here. This will certainly, hopefully, be our worst match on the show, as it is Liv Morgan defeating Mandy Rose in 5:15 with a pinfall. I mean, we have great chemistry here, which, I mean, that's not ideal to have great chemistry and only get a 31, but we have to build up both of these two now. As you know, we talked about the women's division, and we're going to segue right into it after this match, actually. But the women's division's a mess on Raw, and these two are going to have to probably get more screen time, in addition to some other things we have planned. But I'm not surprised that this cooled the crowd a bit. I mean, there's only so much we could do here, but we needed a women's match really to actually get these two some work. And really, again, this is the first match that Liv Morgan's actually won in our save, I believe, on the main show at least. She may have won a pre-show match, I can't remember, but still, it's one where we got to build these two up somehow, because they're really it. We talked about the Carmela thing. Nikki Cross out, maternity leave. She's probably out a year. Our champion, Rhea Ripley, who we're about to get to, she's out a year. So it's what we have to do. So we got to get these numbers up, though, for the ratings. This will hurt a little bit just in terms of the actual rating and everything, but Liv Morgan gets the win, and we'll see what we can do with this Raw Women's division, which is not in ideal shape right now. And that leads us to the big angle here we have with Rhea Ripley handing over the Raw Women's Championship to Stone Cold Steve Austin. It has been announced that Ripley did suffer a torn Achilles. She will be out a year of action. I'm still just, you guys know, I'm still upset about it. But this is our best segment thus far in 84. This is really great, and you get Rhea Ripley doing great off script. Unfortunately, we will not be able to actually have her in the mix for a bit when it comes to the actual wrestling, and she does hand over the Raw Women's title. So the Raw Women's Championship has been vacated, and now we will see where we go from here. This was, as I talked about at King of the Ring, I had big plans for Rhea Ripley and the direction we were going to head in with the Raw Women's Championship, but those plans have pretty much been scrapped at this point. And so we're kind of starting from scratch here, and I think we've come up with something that's going to work well, but I don't know. We'll see if it's going to be as good as what I thought we could have with Rhea Ripley and what we had in the works with her. But pretty disappointing to know that she is probably one of our biggest rising stars in the entire company, and we will not have her for a year. So yeah, that's where things are at. So she hands over the championship, and Stone Cold basically says he will have an announcement. Basically next week, he will announce where things go from here with the Raw Women's Championship. A very emotional Rhea Ripley having to hand over the title. And of course, that's not going to stop these two backstage watching this entire thing. Bayley and Sasha Banks get a 66 here on the segment. We do continue sort of the women's title triangle storyline. We wanted to continue this a little bit, even though we know Rhea Ripley's going to be taken out of that at this point now. But these two cutting a promo backstage, their suggestion is, and this is where the angle writer I think is going to come in. I can write this in a little more detail. But their suggestion is that they should officially be the co-champions, the Raw Women's co-champions. Like that, they believe that to be the case because they are delusional heels. So that is what they have planned, and we will see if Steve Austin is going to go along with that. I think you probably know what the answer is going to be. But Bayley and Sasha Banks are petitioning to be officially crowned the co-champions as the Raw Women's Champs. So we'll see if Stone Cold takes them up on that. My guess is no. But yes, that is what they're doing, and they continue to be entertaining as always. And we get to, this didn't go as well as I thought it would either. A 61, it's fine, but Angelo Dawkins did not do well without a script to follow, so another one of those sort of random things. But Big E comes out of this looking good. So Big E, Montez Ford, and Angelo Dawkins, they're basically just hyping up the six-man tag they're going to begin coming up next. So not a whole lot to that. It's not, your New Day promo with Big E and Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, but the Street Profits, they're all three in action here together with Big E, excuse me. So the Street Profits and Big E, those three in action. And it's just one of those where the Street Profits, as we know, trying to bounce back from losing the shot at the undisputed tag team titles at King of the Ring with the Usos getting the win there, and Big E continuing his dominant streak right now in WWE. We'll see if that continues here in the next match, which does okay. I would have liked this to be better too. A 55 overall here. We'll look at some of the notes, but it is Big E and the Street Profits getting the win over the Dirty Dogs and John Morrison. Big E pins Robert Roode with the big ending. And if we look here at the performance ratings, Big E and Morrison seem to be ahead of everyone else. Not surprised there, but when you just look at it, I mean, we know we've kind of looked at these dirt sheet notes and such, but you have some of the people holding back those kind of things, and the lack of an associated storyline, that always gets penalized as well. But I still would like this to be a little bit higher, but I think it's just because, these guys in particular, like, Big E, yes, like he's the biggest star of the group right now, but the others just they don't have a lot of momentum either. I think that's the thing too, is like these two I know don't have a lot of momentum because they've lost a lot of matches. I think the same for Morrison for the most part, although he may have won a couple, but one of those may come on the pre-show. Of course, the Street Profits coming off a loss also. So really, Big E's the only one with a lot of momentum right now. So I think that probably had something to do with it too. But still, Big E on the winning side once again. And it is Big E and the Street Profits getting the win over John Morrison and the Dirty Dogs. And then we get a promo from Edge here. Another great segment here. 84 overall. We get the usual benefits, flavor of the month, all this good stuff we've had thus far with Edge. And Edge cutting the promo saying that he is now refocused after his injury, which he talked about. We found out from Steve Austin last week on Raw that Edge would not be in attendance because he had suffered an injury at a house show. That is what Edge had informed him of. And so Austin made the announcement Edge wouldn't be there, and then we saw Edge at King of the Ring telling Austin that he is now ready. He's cleared, back in action. Just sort of a minor injury he had to work through, but now he's ready to go. And so Edge saying that he's refocused, he's ready to get back on the chase, and he is ready for what's next. And Austin did hint at King of the Ring that he had some plans in store for Edge, so perhaps we'll find out what those are in the coming weeks. But Edge with a promo here before we get to his match with Chad Gable, and this was excellent here. Here we go, and here's why. Pretty good chemistry, so that's really nice to know. Edge and Chad Gable, 74, really good here, but Edge, as always, really delivers. But I liked it. I like to know that these two have pretty good chemistry. And of course, again, we get the usual boosts from Edge overall. But this is a nice match here. We'll take it, like a 74, because Gable's really not over. I mean, he's not over that much. And we know WWE, when you in this game, the product is where a lot of it's based off of popularity, and Gable's not really over that much. So we'll take it. Edge is over, and these two with having good chemistry, this is really good. So I'll take this. This was probably better than expected. I did not expect to get a 74 out of these two, but I think that speaks to, again, Edge having a lot of popularity. He's really over, and we get the pretty good chemistry between the two, and just a lot of benefits on the Edge front. So Edge refocused after his injury, and we will see where things go for here. Forward from here for Edge. And then we get another promo here. AJ Styles. AJ Styles has been reading social media, and he is not happy with being called a loser because he did lose the King of the Ring finals to Daniel Bryan. And so AJ Styles is starting a storyline here, as you see. He wants to prove that he's still got it. He is not happy about being called a loser, coming up short. He had his chance in the King of the Ring finals against Daniel Bryan. He could not get it done. And now AJ Styles is out to prove that he still got it. And that's because next week he's going to try to prove it actually in the ring, as it will be AJ Styles taking on Ricochet next week on Raw. So basically AJ setting that up. And if you know an AJ promo, just think of it in his usual accent, very upset. AJ not happy with being called a loser, and he wants to prove that he still got it. And the first step to doing that will be next week against Ricochet. And we get a promo here before our big main event match, which is going to be Kevin Owens versus Sheamus for the United States title, a last man standing match. That's our main event here on the show, and Sheamus cutting a promo here with Corey Graves, who, again, we're using Corey and Pat McAfee, the two color commentators. We're using them in these interview-type roles. And so Sheamus cutting a promo, basically saying that Kevin Owens will not take his title from him, and he has no plans on losing his United States Championship. Kevin Owens will not take it from him, and that leads us into our big main event, which I hope delivers. Remember, they had the match a couple weeks ago that went to a time limit draw. Kevin Owens, 20 minutes, time limit draw, could not get the job done in 20 minutes. Sheamus retained the title via the draw. And now Austin set up the rematch here, and there will be a winner in this one, as it is last man standing, and let's see who comes out on top. And a good match here, 74, and the winner and new United States champion is Kevin Owens. And a really good match here. We'll take it, a 74, last man standing. What I did, I really liked, this was a little wrinkle, probably, we could play this up better if this was an actual, wrestling promotion in real life and such, but basically I've set it for 21 minutes because the fact is we really played up how Sheamus just held on to the title because Owens could not pin him in 20 minutes. And I wanted to do it where I was hoping like, okay, maybe it'll say like, Owens beats him in 20 minutes and 3 seconds or something, but 20:51's fine. So really all it would have taken was for that match to have another minute, and perhaps Owens would have beaten Sheamus the first time around. But this time around, all he needed was an extra 51 seconds. The pop-up powerbomb, that's all Owens needed to win the last man standing match and to win the United States title. So we have a new United States champion here, and really happy with how this turned out. We set this up as, for them to call it in the ring because they both have good psychology. We also did the slow build because, again, these two, they have that. I mean, they can do different things. They're very skilled in the ring. So we set up all those things, and so it really turned out pretty well here. This has been a really nice feud because, I mean, look, we get a bonus here. Michael Hayes, too. He's our road agent, and we usually get a pretty good bonus off of Michael Hayes because he's the best there is, I think, when it comes to our road agent. So everything went well here, and this has really just been a nice secondary feud because we've been able to put these two in the main event spot now 2 times in our save thus far. So that's been nice to have because, remember, we've kind of had our WWE champion on the sidelines a bit, waiting for his next challenger. So it's been nice to have these two, and now with Kevin Owens as the new champion, we'll see where things move forward from here. But a really good match here. We'll take it. But we're not done yet, as we do have the big face-off here. Gets an 80. Would have liked it to be a little bit better too, but clearly we got a note here. Bobby Lashley very poor when trying to improvise the dialogue. One of those where I think before I've mostly scripted Bobby Lashley, but I just don't think I did here, which is okay. But Daniel Bryan did fine off the script. But as you can see, speaking of scripts, it is Bobby Lashley flipping the script. He is the one challenging Daniel Bryan for a match at SummerSlam. So our SummerSlam showdown, our main event, like, it's already set. One of our main events for SummerSlam, it may be official. We'll find out next week. But Bobby Lashley challenges Daniel Bryan for SummerSlam. It will be for the WWE Championship, and Daniel Bryan indeed accepts. So these two have pretty much made the pact that they are good with wrestling each other at SummerSlam. We'll see what Steve Austin has in store for him next week. But this is one where Lashley basically steps up and says he's been looking for competition. He's been looking for a challenge, and we saw at King of the Ring when Daniel Bryan became the 2021 King of the Ring, that's what he was waiting for in terms of Lashley. He's been waiting for that kind of competition, and Daniel Bryan is the person that he needs to face at SummerSlam. So even though we're, 7 weeks away, I think, from SummerSlam, we've got one of our main events maybe set. We'll find out next week. Bobby Lashley challenging Daniel Bryan in a match, the WWE champion, the one challenging the challenger, which we don't always see all the time. So that sets up an intriguing story moving forward with these two, because as we know as well, we haven't tied it into a storyline yet, but we do know that Bobby Lashley, early in our save, I think it was the first week or the second week, announced that he was retiring at, I think it's the end of August. So we'll see how everything goes down, but that sets up some more intrigue, and I'm really happy about Raw right now. I know the women's division is an absolute mess, but overall, I'm really excited about some of the things that we have in mind here on Raw. I think we've got some good things in the works, but again, the biggest challenge is the women's division. But I think our top programs, I think you're gonna like the payoffs. I'll say that. I think they're gonna be a lot of fun to see everything unfolds there. We get a 76 for this show. It does increase our popularity in 12 regions overall, so that's nice. We see all these notes here still on those, but I'm happy with Raw. I think it turned out pretty well. Again, some of the things of note we have to take away from this. We need to figure out the situation with Carmela. She's going to have to be used, and again, it really all comes back to the women's division. Liv Morgan and Mandy Rose putting on a pretty poor match from a rating standpoint, but we've got to have them. We just don't have enough numbers on Raw with the women's division. So we've got to have them there. And really, again, I'm very impressed with the Edge and Chad Gable match. Of course, also impressed with the main event. Kevin Owens becomes the new champion. So we got a lot of things here getting started on the road to SummerSlam for Raw. So let's see what else we need to tend to before we wrap up this episode. So we see right off the bat, not for us, but when it comes to New Japan, who again is at war with NXT, probably thanks to Triple H as always. Tetsuya Naito picks up a dislocated shoulder. That's not ideal. Only a few weeks there on that, so that's not as bad as I guess I would have thought if it was a dislocated shoulder. So that's okay. Our Raw does great, of course. Here, I forgot to mention we did pretty well fans wise, 9,295. And let's look at some of the stuff here. There's a couple things I forgot to mention after King of the Ring, but Tom Pritchard, who we had on our short list, he's been hired there. Our drug test fees as usual. 3.72 rating for Raw. Naito injured, and here's some of the things that came out. I forgot to put on the previous one that came out after King of the Ring. Clearly, Triple H, I mean, this guy, if you want to just go back through the series, like, if you just look at everything Triple H has done, like, that's a series in and of itself, because Triple H has come out of retirement, sent NXT into just a complete, I don't know, it's a mess now. Because we are at war with AEW, New Japan. Triple H is wrestling. Like, he's probably going to be the champ soon. I don't know what's going on with Triple H. This guy's, I don't know what's going on. But we've got a mess here. And he clearly doesn't like Ricochet. So he wants us to write Ricochet off of television. Well, that's not going to happen because next week Ricochet is facing AJ Styles. So I'm sorry, Triple H. He's just going to have to be upset. Now it looks like we got Paul Heyman causing risks everywhere. This is just, boy, we've got a locker room right now. Paul Heyman is manipulating the locker room against AJ Styles. So now Shelton Benjamin has simmering tension with AJ Styles. Clearly there are more people that have this. Same with AJ Styles. Bruce Pritchard. Oh, well, that's not great. Bruce is helping us book shows. He's a road agent. So Bruce is also has simmering tension with AJ Styles. Who else? Shayna Baszler? Wow. Paul Heyman just turning everyone against AJ Styles. So, man, this is just, this is something. And it's a good thing we have these two on separate brands. But yet still, Paul Heyman making his presence felt, even as a SmackDown competitor. He is turning everyone on the roster against AJ Styles. So that's not ideal, since it looks like right now, if we look at things going on here, and like it's not good when it comes to AJ Styles and some of the stuff that we have. Apparently, Paul Heyman is really just doing things. You look at some of the relationships he has here, like, really, that's the only simmering tension. But the reason why, as we know, is because it is a strong dislike. So these two already had that setting in the game, which I'm sure is based out of some of the stuff we've heard actually in reality with, Styles and Heyman and that kind of stuff. So that's why we're seeing this. And you've seen, again, these we've got several competitors now with the tension based off of what Paul Heyman has done. So hopefully that does not turn anything into anything bigger. But it is something clearly of note that we have to look at. So Triple H and Paul Heyman, they are becoming the, behind the scenes. They're doing some things that are not necessarily helping our morale. We'll just say that. Drug test fees at King of the Ring. We did get 3 million viewers or so for King of the Ring, which was in this. It's shown on WWE Network. So, and then of course, it's there. Like, I just want to keep it in my mailboxes just to sort of see it all the time, just to really just make me upset. Rhea Ripley did sustain a torn Achilles, so you already knew that, and we're just leaving all those still there. So that wraps up everything we sort of need for this particular video, and again, I'm really excited about where things are at with Raw. We will also have the fallout on SmackDown from King of the Ring, and see how things unfold there. Of course, we got our big Roman Reigns storyline going on right now, which achieved perfection at the King of the Ring, and we'll see if we can follow that up on SmackDown. But as always, I appreciate the great feedback. Be sure to subscribe, like, share, and again, leave me any feedback you have. If you want to see something on this, as I mentioned, I've got some things in the works, some exciting things I'm going to do. I'm thinking about putting together some more in-depth videos on just how I approach the game from a booking standpoint, how I do storylines, some of the, if you guys want to see like the spreadsheets I use and all that stuff, let me know, because I have all that. I don't know if you care to see it. If you do, that's great, because that's up to you guys, because you're the ones that make this. And so if you want to see stuff like that, you want to see some separate videos that maybe are still in this series, but they're just not necessarily tied to our storylines and everything, I can certainly do that. So just let me know in the comments. And the next one will be a look at our next episode of SmackDown for the fallout from King of the Ring.